Firstly, I will address my audience and say a quick apology. I know, guys, I know it's been months since I posted, and I do have at least one project unfinished, which is the Bankroll Challenge. And all I can say is that I feel like you deserve a coach who is enthralled and impassioned by what he's teaching. And for the last few months, I really just lost the joie de vivre, at least around poker. And I've been focusing so much on my charity that poker's just been thrown by the wayside. But I've started coaching again in my kind of private circles, and even did a couple of streams recently. So you can expect to see the Bankroll Challenge returning. Now, secondly, Russell Brand, my brother. You may recognize me. I came to one of your performances, the one in a church, I think it was in Henley. And I was sitting at the front, and in between your comments about how by merit of existing in a society, a constituent of said society can be indoctrinated into all of these weird cultural norms. In between that, you were also ribbing me for breaking all the cultural norms. I was sitting at the front of your performance in a suit with my shoes off, massaging my feet, and I guess I was asking for it in hindsight. But little did I know that the ribbing would come from literally the only other person in that church who was also in his socks. But it was an absolutely beautiful experience to see you live. You are something. You really are something. You're a diamond in the rough. And the way that you managed to encapsulate the spiritual lessons that you've recently, perhaps not so recently, learnt, and the deep virtuous concepts which you've obviously endeavored to think through as far and deeply as you possibly can into a comedic performance. It was absolutely inspirational. It was beautiful to behold. And I really see so much power in the way that you can communicate these ideas on such a grounded level. And I don't just mean grounded in a rational sense, which you did do, which is hard in the first place to get that duality between kind of spiritual, ethereal, and then grounded, rational. But also grounded in the sense of people there could relate to it, because you spoke a bit like a chav or a gangster sometimes. And you just got down to their level, you're not hiding all the gruesome facts about yourself or the parts of yourself that are still a bit modernized and still a bit like dirty and angry and bitter at the world and sometimes real stupid. And I think that I'm just roasting you. You're like, I didn't mean to do that. And it was just so gorgeous to watch a whole crowd of people who have been there to be elucidated by your enlightenment, who are curious about what you have to say and just wanted a good old chuckle, to suddenly be looking inwards to themselves and be thinking, well, maybe life doesn't have to be this way. And I felt the energy of the room. It changed. There was actually a moment where I thought you thought it was a lull, and people were just looking at you all doughy-eyed, like, oh my God, say more. Please tell me life doesn't actually have to be the way I think it does have to be. And it sparked a little thing in me that made me think, and made me feel deeply some of your future. Now, it's obvious your future's going to be in politics. It's obvious your future's going to be in leadership and communication to others. And I feel like this is definitely my path as well, in my own different flavor. But something that I saw very, very strongly was your ability to lift other people out of the murk. And this is where I want to reach out to you. I'm starting a charity. In fact, we're launching this year, if all goes to plan. And we are going to end homelessness in the UK. We've given ourselves a deadline by 2025. That's a very vague statement, and it's a very ambitious claim. I get it. But hear me out on this. Let me introduce the concept and convince you rationally and emotively that this concept is worth fighting for. But what I'm not asking for is a handout. I'm not asking for your platform. I'm not asking for a shout out. I'm asking for you, the dude that I deeply love and admire, to take your practice of being an orator and speak to the constituents of which I'm attempting to lift out of poverty. Because probably the number one issue preventing a person that's homeless from being integrated into a fully functioning part of society is their own lack of self-worth.
I left my wife and then just ended up became homeless, you know what I mean? Just living on the streets, couldn't get anywhere to live. I lived on the streets for about 5 years.
I've been homeless for like, I would say, at least 25 and a half years of it. At 5 years of age, I watched my mother pick up a bread knife, like Michael Myers size, and stick it into my dad at Charlie's distance away from me when I was 5, yeah? Because he'd been battering the shit out of her, right? And he dragged her from the living room into the kitchen, jumped all over her head because his food hadn't been prepared on time.
Do you remember it?
I do. I get complex PTSD as a result of it.
How's your experience on the street been? Like, how have people treated you?
Oh well, I've been beat up, I've been urinated on, I've been robbed, you know.
How do you feel towards the general public?
Hostile. I feel like the left is out there to die. I feel very neglected and unloved.
And can you really blame them for having those thoughts? They've been pissed on, they've been kicked, they've been shat on, figuratively and literally, for decades, some of them. And that's enough to beat any man down. But what I saw in your show is your ability to connect with absolutely anybody and show them that life doesn't have to be the way that they think it does. And it may, to some people, seem like this small detail, but I think that it is one of the biggest pieces of the puzzle that's needed to solve homelessness. So, my charity. Before I tell you about that, let me tell you a bit of a brief backstory about me. On a personal level, I had a very tough childhood, a very tough life in general, and I'm very grateful for it. I'm super, super happy it happened. As with everybody else in the world, I wouldn't be who I am today without my trauma, without my hardships. And I've also had an extraordinarily privileged life in the sense of the last 7 years I found poker. So when I was about 19, I deposited $50 onto a poker site and I dedicated my life and decided not to go to university because I found I had a knack for it. Played up to 16 hours a day, obsessed about it until I got to the very top, and I was making 7 figures a year very consistently. Until one night I had, let's call it a download. Back in my psychedelic usage days, guys, don't do psychedelics unless you're very sure you know what you're doing. Back in my psychedelic usage days, I was meditating, and I think synthetic magic mushrooms, again, if you're going to do psychedelics, guys, go for the more natural versions. I would extremely encourage that, except I wouldn't encourage it unless you know exactly what you're doing. And a message came to me. Now, the rationalists, the materialists, the naturalists, they will tell me, hey, Charlie, these messages, these ideas, they were all your doing. There was no external influence whatsoever. And I'll fucking take it. If you want to give me that undeserved credit, fuck me, I'll take it. But the way that I see it is that these concepts were ethereally floating around in the ether, as ethereal things do, float around in. And in that very moment, I created a conduit of myself, a container for these energies to flow through. And I was given and shown visually and viscerally the ideas of 2 charities. Now, the first one is Thrive, my current charity. The second one is called Abundance. The skeleton of that I can explain some other time. It's going to be huge. Thrive, huge in itself. We are going to end homelessness. And the way that we're going to do it is going to be a multifaceted approach. But we have to launch off something. It has to be lean. It has to be slim. It has to be easily digested by the public. And it also has to tackle things on a systematic level. So what we're launching off is one of the prongs. The main prong is an app that we've developed, and I'll explain the app very briefly now. Imagine you're walking down Oxford Circus, you're like, fuck me, that guy looks like he needs a hand. Oh, bad, I don't know what to do. I'm a bit worried about approaching him, I don't know what to say, and if I do approach him, what do I give him money, and then it just gets spent on crack, which, fair enough, it might do. But this time, on this gruesomely cold day, you look over at this man, and he's holding up a sign. You're like, you don't usually have a sign, Graham, what's up? And he's like, you can donate to me, Graham Smith, on the Thrive app, and the money can only be spent on food, shelter, or mental health care, all at the click of a button. And you're like, pew, whoa, how does that work? I don't understand. Graham, tell me more. And he's like, yeah, I don't actually need the app myself. It's kind of a clever system. I just need my face to be integrated onto the system and to be signed up to have an account. You can donate money to me and I can go down, spend that £13 if you want to give it to me, and go spend a night in a hostel. Or I can go spend £2 at a coffee shop. Or I can go spend £5 at a restaurant. And the money doesn't actually touch my, Graham's account, but I can still spend it in any of these third-party approved, Thrive approved suppliers or vendors. And you're like, fuck me, that's a good idea. Why has nobody done that? And he's like, don't worry, Russell, don't worry. It's better than that. If you are too anxious to approach me tomorrow, you can go home, search through the Thrive database, find me, or search my name, or search my unique number. I even got a QR code on my little site. Cool, huh? And you can donate to me from home. You can do that when you're sitting at home on your bed, on your sofa. You can do it when you fly off to America. There's a lot of places you can donate to me. And what this does, Mr. Russell, says Graham, is it monetizes your spontaneous, unreified generosity. You're like, fuck me, Graham. That was articulate, wasn't it? It's like, yeah, I practice saying this a lot. And what that allows us to do is to finally capitalize on these millions and millions and millions of interactions that happen every single day in London alone, where people are walking past people that are homeless, thinking, I really want to do something about this. I really want to help this person. But I don't know how, because there isn't a solid conduit to get money from my account and turn it into commodities or necessities that he needs to thrive. And what it also does is it monetizes the spontaneous generosity of somebody sitting at home where they really want to do good, but they don't know how. And you say, but Graham, this is a charity. I have a lack of trust in charity as I'm a member of the public sector. On average, I know a guy called Charlie did a poll on Twitter back in the day, and on average, people thought that between 10 and 25% of their donations would go to the constituents that need it, or indirectly spent on marketing and advertising and wages and things like that. Graham's like, wow, I didn't know that either. This is a great exchange of information that might not have happened if we didn't have this nice icebreaker of my sign for Thrive. Which, by the way, is great marketing. You're like, fuck me, that is good marketing. Millions of people are going to see that every day. It's almost like you don't need to be spending so much on a marketing budget. That's fucking clever, mate. Hey, but what about my issue of not having the money spent? Not having the money go directly to you? And Graham's like, well, actually, this is a different organisation, and 100% of the donations that you give to me will be going directly to me. 100% efficiency, 100% transparency, and 100% trust. You're like, fuck me, that might start introducing a bit more trust from the public sector to the charitable sector. 100% it's not really heard of, and if it is, it's not really boasted about. Fascinating. And then you go home and think about it, Russell. You're like, this does change stuff. Like, this is a game changer because, as I'm sure you know, if one wants to change the world, one needs to understand the world. And if one wants to understand the world, one really needs to understand incentive structures. And what this has done, as I'm sure your brain has already worked out, is that it's taken the three parties needed to bring necessities, basic necessities, to the people that need it most. This being the people who have money that want to be giving money away. This is the people who are homeless, and this is the suppliers and vendors. You're setting up an incentive structure for the people that are homeless to be holding up a sign and advertising for us. You're setting up an incentive structure for the people that want to donate to be able to donate, knowing that it's safe, knowing that they don't have to approach somebody if they don't want to. And you're setting up an incentive structure for these third-party suppliers and vendors. Shout out to Black Sheep Coffee, by the way. I've got a meeting with them next week, and they're looking like we're going to be piloting with them. Very good people over there. To be advertising our app in their store, because not only does it increase their perceived karma points and karma points, hopefully they care about those in reverse order, but it also increases their footfall and revenue. So this is not only a compassionate system, but this is an economically viable and scalable system. And something you might also note is that because it is technology based, the scalability of this project is phenomenal. It's beautiful. You can take this across the UK in seconds. You can take it across the world. Well, it takes bureaucracy to do that, so months maybe. And what we're actually planning to do is making it selectively open source, meaning that we'll give this technology out to people that need it. And I've actually spoken to a bunch of people in different countries that say, like, yeah, my community would fucking be great. Like, there's one of my friends from South Africa, and one of the issues they have is that loads of people who are poor go door to door knocking to try and ask for money. And this would be a great solution for them. That's just one place alone. So what we would be doing is making this selectively open source, partially open source, and saying, okay, if you guys can tick these 6 boxes, we'll just give you this technology for free. Have at it. You don't even need to advertise us. Maybe you do. I don't know. We'll think about it. We'll see what happens down the road. Sometimes I'm too generous for the business world. Sometimes I'm too hard. You know, you got to find the balance. So it's a tough balance to get. So this alone, I believe, has the capacity and the potential to offer housing to everybody that needs it within the UK by 2025. Now, has that solved homelessness? No, I don't think so. Under some definitions, if everybody has the potential to have a home, it has. But under my personal definitions, I think that there are way too many other factors that need to be tackled. So this is where other prongs need to be brought in, and this is where we need to be channeling energy and coordinating other entities in one big momentum movement. But what I really envision happening is that we are going to be empowering people. We're going to be empowering the population of the United Kingdom to be saying, okay, if we can cast a net that the government, when they cast their net, it had fucking big holes in it. If we can cast our own net and catch the people that have fallen the furthest through the grasps and clasps of society, and we can bring them up and help them stand on their own 2 feet, imagine what else we can do. And so the other prongs are going to be including revolutionizing the hostel and housing systems. I believe that, there are very good projects out there that haven't managed to scale up. I believe that, first of all, we need to find a holistic approach. That, some people, they need to take 2 years off to meditate. Some people need to take 5 years to heal their trauma and get massages every day. Some people need to go straight into a job because they'll go crazy if they don't. And there's 100,000 different cases out there, and they need to be treated like actual people and be asked, what is it that you need? And this needs to be integrating psychologists, fucking shamans, fucking chefs that want to train people. There are a ton of people out there, especially around the London area, that want to help. These things also need to be economically sustainable and scalable, which is where I have a lot of good ideas. We could speak about it another time if you are interested. And the last thing I would say is, I get the question very often, why London and why homelessness? And the answer is, I want to change the world in the biggest and best way that I possibly can, and I want to help facilitate other people to do the same thing. And I want to have as much fun along the way as possible. Let's just get that straight. I believe in a divisive, divided world, we need to find phenomena for people to get around on a grassroots level that are unifiable and undivided. Now, homelessness is that issue within the UK. You can take absolutely fucking anything else, and they're like, oh, we hate you, and then we hate you, so now we can't vote on anything. And the people at the top are like, "Mwahaha." But for some reason, homelessness, for whatever, I think neither side could bring themselves to take the anti-solve homelessness side. So for some reason, it's not a divided topic. And why London? Well, there's this unique ability in London. So if you manage to plant a seed in London, it spreads to the whole world. And the logo for Thrive is an acorn. And I really believe in the power of this metaphor. Inside an acorn, there is a lot of unreified, uncrystallized, unrealized potential energy. And inside the idea of Thrive, inside the movement of Thrive, it may be small right now, but we're planting the acorn, and it's being planted so specifically with the right conditions, the conditions being sunlight and water, or in this case, money and compassion. And it's going to grow into a beautiful oak tree that will stretch its branches and dig its roots all throughout the world. We're also going to be addressing the issue through media, so the mainstream media and the newsstream media. And then we're also going to be looking at the political side of things, because a lot of the legislation right now has just been absolutely outdated, anachronistic, and it's left a lot of the institutions relatively impotent. So things do need to be changed on a political level, and I think we have some good ideas about what to do there. And also, the last thing is that there needs to be some level of centralized governance and organization, because the government, as much as I fucking love the government for things like roads and things like the post service, good job guys, you fucking nailed it. They're a little bit shitty at coordinating the charity sector. No offense, but they're really, really not so good at it. And this is where we need high-level data analyses conducted by a centralized organizational force to help say to the other charities, all right, you guys are good at this, and we know we have good data that says a lot of these kind of people are here on this kind of day, so you go over there at this point. You guys are good at this, so you go over there at this point. We'll channel money towards you. We'll make sure people go over there. And it can work as one organism instead of just 20 different arms trying to slap each other for the newest grant. And this is the organizational force that Thrive plans to bring to the table. So this is the vision that I have for solving homelessness, and this is the vision that I have to begin the movement that will change the world in so many different ways. I strongly believe that if we want to change the world, it has to be through the momentum of non-profit organizations, because we live in a world that completely distrusts so many things. And we're writing in our constitution, in Thrive, and I will do with every single charity that I ever am part of that I'm starting, the people who are at the top will not ever make a single fucking penny. And that's so important, that we're outside the realms of being corrupt by money. We can't have alternative income that's connected to these things. We're not going to be corrupted by greed, and we're going to be extraordinarily selective with whom we let in the inner circle. So let's do it. Let's change the world. I know that Thrive will change the world, and I know that change is coming. And I really hope, Russell, that you will decide to be a part of it. Now, if anybody out there of my audience has got this far, then it probably means you're listening with a couple of keen ears. So if you would please link this video to Russell Brand's last video. Apparently he or his team read the comments quite carefully. And like the comments of other people that have linked it, so it goes up to the top. That would be greatly appreciated. And I trust the universe will do what's right, so whatever happens, happens. And please know that there is absolutely no pressure to do what's right now. There's no pressure to join if it doesn't feel right for whatever reason. I still love you, and I'll still see you in the future. I see you, I feel you, I love you, brother. Peace.
Thrive's commitment to ending homelessness means challenging those in power, demonstrating that it's unacceptable that deprivation and poverty-linked homelessness exists.
The last 12 months has really taught us that homelessness is an issue which we can tackle, and we can tackle effectively if we work together.
I think something unique that Thrive does with connecting the individual to the person in need is giving a name and a face to a person that needs help.
With this technology, there's so many people who want to give and want to help, who will.
We all deserve to have our basic needs met. We all deserve to be happy. We all deserve to experience connection and to feel safe and secure and have joy in life.
Thrive not only creates a way to directly help with the needs of homelessness, it provides a means of articulating this view to our politicians and giving a voice to those who've been denied one.